Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once again to talk more TNA wrestling related shenanigans. And right now, I guess I want to talk about Nick Nemeth and the idea of earning a title while still holding it. Now, this isn't a unique idea to Mr. Nemeth there, but he's in this position, currently speaking. He debuted at Hard to Kill basically at the start of the year there in TNA, and realistically, people have, said he deserves to be, an upper main event level guy in WWE for many years and whatnot. And all that, and I 100% agree with that as well. I do like Nemeth. I don't want anyone to take anything away from, negative away from what I'm trying to say here about Mr. Nemeth and whatnot. He's a great pro wrestler, obviously a much better pro wrestler than I probably ever was or ever would be or whatever. But the thing about it is that it is a difficult process of building people sometimes. And sometimes you don't have all the time in the world to build somebody. And I do think that TNA made a slight mistake in putting the title on Nemeth so early and hadn't really built him up enough to being one of the top main event guys. So now they're in this position where they've given him the title and are deciding to build his reputation as a main event player up, as he's holding the title. So this has happened to a few wrestlers. I'm not going to really name basically any of them, I don't think, here, because it's not really that worth it, I don't think, to really go through every single wrestler just to, discuss their level of success or failure or whatever with a title. Because sometimes, yes, putting the title on somebody does elevate them. And sometimes the title reign that comes after, you winning the title does elevate you as well. So it's certainly not a bad thing or not a thing that you can't do. I'll never say that or whatever, because they literally are there doing it. So, but how much success you will have with that, that's the thing. Now, I think, again, that this will be quite successful because Nemeth is pretty darn good as a wrestler. He can carry himself as an upper main event level guy. And hey, if he's effectively, somebody that's just sort of holding onto that title for a little while or whatever else, it's probably not going to matter that much. Now, again, it's probably not going to matter that much either way for a little while at least. For long term, it's probably not that good. Over 6 months, I would say, isn't a good plan. Even over 3 or so months isn't terribly good. But then again, you don't want to play, as we say, hot potato with the title. You don't want to keep switching it around and switching it around and switching it around. You want to keep the title on people, most of the time for a significant-ish period of time. For the most part, you don't want to devalue that title by, switching ownership of it too quickly and whatnot. Plus, again, that devalues the title run that the wrestler did have as well. So it does double duty as, sort of hurting both things. It hurts the title reign of a wrestler, and it hurts the reign or the reigns that are in the title. And it sort of hurts the title identity, its sort of self, because now you're having not joke champions or whatever, but champions that perhaps, people felt like, oh man, why the heck did they put the title on this person? And transitional champions are a thing sometimes. But the thing is, mostly you shouldn't really do that. You should find another way to kind of do these things. And I know back in the day, back in the 1900s or whatever else, or pre-1980 or even pre-1990, they didn't really do a lot of multi-man matches. The triple threat was really invented in the 90s and whatnot, and the same with the fatal four-way and five-ways. I guess they weren't really invented, but like the idea of them really had really been fleshed out. Like the idea of them probably existed. And I know there's such a thing as four-mans, like as in tag teams or six-man tag teams or whatever, and things like that. So there's obviously, these more multi-man matches and whatnot, but it's one of those things of, they didn't really do a lot of that sort of stuff. And that's some way that you can sort of take a title off somebody while protecting them, because especially in the matches where you don't need to be pinned or made to submit, you can look a lot better in coming out of that having not technically realistically lost your title, but then you need a big feud or something else to kind of go into so that it keeps you away from the title if you're just going to lose, so that you can sort of, maintain that for a while and then, come back to it later or whatever, or protect the reign of the person that is, currently holding it if you're going to win it. Same thing. So the idea there is to, maintain everyone for the most part at the highest level at which you can kind of build them. So currently we are building to Emergence. Now, like this week's episode, I haven't quite finished watching it. I haven't even started watching it. But it's sort of hard to look past the idea that they're building to a match with Josh and Nick. So, I feel like I think they even put it on TV, but I feel like, man, like you should put that on pay-per-view. If it's not at Emergence, I feel like it should be at Victory Road. I really don't feel like it should be at Bound for Glory. That's just me. I don't know. It's sort of sucky to feel like, man, the idea here is to put the title on Joe Hendry, in my opinion. That's my thought, at least. So maybe I'm totally wrong here in thinking, perhaps even they might think about turning Nemeth heel. He's a great heel. I'm sure he can do a lot of great work as a heel champion. But I don't know. It's tough situation to sort of be in. I think, people keep saying, oh, well, when are they going to capitalize on this? Because you got to strike while the iron's hot. That's one of those things. But you've also got to, draw it out as much as what you can, because, again, you've got to get that money out of those customers so that, because the ride is what people pay to see, like people pay to see the ride or the rise or the chase or whatever you want to call it. People don't really pay to see, their champion once they've won it. Like, they lose interest fairly quickly. Yes, you'll have a lot of interest initially and whatnot, but then the interest will start fading and fading and fading and fading. So that's why they're trying to do this with Hendry. They're trying to hold off as much as what they can. And, I think they recently announced where Bound for Glory was, so we're going to be talking about that soon. But, you've got to always be thinking, when is Bound for Glory? Because that's besides Slammiversary, that's one of the biggest shows that they do every year. And, yeah, so you've got to try to put on the biggest matches that you can. Now, if Josh Alexander isn't challenging for the world title at that point, or isn't the world title holder at that point, I feel like there's something really wrong going on. And as I said, maybe they had a lot of plans after this title run for a lot of other things going on at the same time, which is why they kind of allowed Joe Hendry to go to NXT and do all these other things and whatnot, because, hey, he can do that. That's fine, because, we've got other plans for him. Or other plans for the other wrestlers that were involved. So we don't really need Joe Hendry that much. But the problem is, Joe Hendry is their biggest draw. So it's like, when you don't have him, it's going to be a lot less, in some ways. But then again, TNA's been in the same position for probably the last 6 or so years. Yes, they've had some big moments, like the last Slammiversary was a big pay-per-view. Hard to Kill was a big pay-per-view. I'm sure Bound for Glory will be a big pay-per-view. and whatnot. So, and I'm pretty sure they've got Rebellion at the end of the year, I think it is. No, that's not this year, is it? Or is it next year? Am I dyslexic? I don't know. There's one more big pay-per-view coming this year, isn't there? I think at some point. So, or maybe not. I don't know now. I'm triple second guessing myself now, but still, we've got to wait and see where all this is kind of going, because again, like sometimes you have that initial reaction, like I did, but I was willing to wait and see where it went. I wasn't going to complain that much, I just wanted to say, hey, I don't see this, I don't know, I don't understand it, like, until you start like putting the pieces together sometimes. So you never count your chickens before they hatch, again. It's one of those things. I'm sure by the time that I watch this week's episode, things will become more clear. And it is hard to say who's the next top challenger. Maybe Kazarian. I don't know. That's kind of, I don't want to say it's low-hanging fruit, but it is low-hanging fruit in a sense. It's a fine challenger that would work for one of TNA's B pay-per-views or whatever, and just to set up the next pay-per-view at Victory Road. I don't know what you do at Victory Road. I don't know. I've said, I really want to see AJ and Josh Alexander at Bound for Glory more than probably Josh and Nemeth at Bound for Glory, but like, I kind of want to see just Josh and AJ for the title more than that, even so. So again, it's like, and again, if you're bringing AJ in, which we don't know whether they are, again, we don't know what's going on. Like, that's one of those things. It's like, well, what are we doing here? Where are we going? Like, at least if it is something and we're going to a certain city, which I'll be talking about in just a second, well, we could possibly get some team that is known to be from a certain Motor City to appear for the Hall of Fame, so hey, Motor City Machine Guns, they're from Detroit. Bound for Glory is going to be in Detroit. Hey, the War Machine Rhino's from Detroit, actually, and we've thought for a long time that he should look at retiring. So and hey, he's done a lot of great stuff, but the thing is, you've got to know, hey, is it time to think about calling it quits, or what? Like, what more can I do? I'll just be a good hand, or I'll just be, another, jumping stick for a lot of people, and a lot of people won't even remember it. Maybe I'll get a cheap pop here or there, or whatever, but still, you've got to think it through and say, hey, is my body telling me, it's time to set it in and give it up and whatnot? Maybe you do want to try one more time and say, hey, I'll give it one more big push at, one more last good run or whatever. That'd be cool. Actually, I think a lot of people would like to. Actually, I kind of feel like I want to see Rhino in the world title picture, just to friggin' see him have one last, hurrah moment, or sort of hurrah moment, or a big moment of some sort at Bound for Glory. That would be kind of cool. I don't know whether it can happen. I don't know. It would be just kind of cool. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because again, that would probably require at least somewhat of a heel-ish turn or a heel edge. I feel like maybe, I don't know, you could again potentially look at turning Nemeth heel, perhaps, I guess, I don't know. Or, I don't know, at least more of a chicken shit, like a little bit, like, he knows he can't beat Rhino, or he's, sort of unsure if he can beat Rhino or something, that sort of thing. So, yeah, play with that confidence level, and, then somehow, some way he pulls it out, I don't know, it does sound a little bit tough, because, again, it's like, without turning properly heel or whatever. It feels a little lacking or whatever in some ways, but yeah, I don't know. You like Shelley kind of pulled it off pretty darn well, actually. Like, you know, still being a baby face, but kind of being a little bit of a shit sometimes. So, you know, you can still do that stuff. But anyway, yeah, I think while you're holding a title and you're effectively earning that title, it is a very uphill battle, especially when you're facing some more B level wrestlers that aren't the top level wrestlers. But you've always got to face B level wrestlers along the way as well. People forget about this. People forget that, you can't have just Hulk Hogan versus, like the top any other top guy all the time. You've got to have other different matches. You've got to build up some more of these, people so that they do feel like, they're, on the cusp of that title. I still want to see some of the more young guys like Ace Austin and Chris Bay getting more opportunities. As a sort of say, they're really great. Young talent still, and they've got a bright future, but I still want to see them getting those big opportunities and people starting to see like them as potentially the next crop of top level guys. Same with like Trey Miguel and that, like those guys I feel like deserve to start being looked at as upper mid carders to like top level guys at some point. And I won't complain to say that it's a slow process again, but it's just one of those things. It's tough for somebody, again, who's, an ex-WWE star and even like barely a mid-card guy, and that perception of, well, they'll just win the TNA title effectively immediately. And that's the problem, like, that I find that, is here with Nemeth. That's the one sort of recurring problem, in some ways. But the thing is, at least he's actually done it. At least he's won the title rather than not winning the title. I don't know, because it's always one of those problems that a lot of these people that are out there on the internet, they're never pleased with anything, no matter what it is. Like I've said, I don't know how many times. If they had actually, even before they put the title on Nemeth, they were complaining that TNA wasn't using Nemeth properly and that he should be the world champion and this and that and whatever else, and he wasn't doing anything or anything of significance or whatever and all of this. And yes, I agree to some extent, but he was doing something interesting and he was doing something with his brother and whatnot. So, and thing is, that was just a month or two, whatever it was. So again, like, people have no real patience, like, really, and that's the problem as well. Like, people don't have the patience to sort of, see things through sometimes, or wait to see how it sort of develops. Sometimes I'm a little impatient too, but hey, it is what it is. Your initial reaction will always be the initial reaction, but I'm always the one to sort of sit back and go, okay, I want to see, can Nick Nemeth earn this title properly? Can we see some great big main events with him, that he's in this program with Kazarian. Okay, that's not going to be the greatest program in wrestling history, but it's still going to be a great program. And then, he'll have something else. And what that'll be, I don't know. But again, that seems to be the direction thus far. Maybe I'll be proven wrong or whatever. We'll have to wait and see, as I say. But like, we know that Speedball Mike Bailey is going to have his Ultimate X match. Again, I feel like we just saw the match graphic there, so I actually don't even know that he said if he loses his qualifying match, because he's in qualifying matches for some reason, that he would drop the title. I don't feel like he will drop the title or he will lose, because it's like, dude, he just won the friggin' thing. And like, there's no really great heels in that division right now, realistically. So I kind of feel like, he needs to, just hold that title for a little while. And he's going to have some just like more B-level rivalries and whatnot for a little while, probably until they really build somebody up. And that's the problem of building people up. It takes time and it takes effort and it takes energy to build these people up. So just having some of these guys coming along, like Mustafa Ali and whatnot, and then leave after a few months or whatever it is, it's great to see them for a little while, and we do wish that they would stay and whatnot, but it's hard to sort of, accept them, in, because it's like, well, you're just going to leave, like, but you do hope for the best. It's just one of those things. Because I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, this person's probably going to leave, and that person's probably going to leave, and this person's probably going to leave when their contract's up and whatnot. I remember like a few years ago, Jordynne Grace's title was up and people were expecting her to leave. Actually, it happened like twice, I think, that people expected her to leave, and she didn't leave either time. Same with Josh Alexander and same with Moose. They've had opportunities to leave 2 or 3 times and they haven't. So, yes, it's a different time now, whatever, but still, like, realistically, yes, it would hurt TNA, absolutely, and it would mean they have to rebuild, like, some new stars and whatnot, but that's what they do. Like, that's what they do when they have to. They do build great stars. They built Josh Alexander virtually out of nothing. They built every single person that's basically on their roster out of nothing, except for, like, Nick Nemeth and, like, who else is from WWE effectively? Actually, that's about it. Besides the Hardys, yeah, that's kind of about it. Like, realistically, Brian Myers, yes, kind of, I guess. But then again, like, Brian Myers was a certified jobber in WWE, and still he hasn't really done a whole lot in TNA. But he's been tag team champion and he's been digital media champion and whatnot. He had the Treehouse, the OG Treehouse. Thank you, AEW, for stealing more of TNA's ideas. And whatnot. So again, yeah, there's a lot going on to earn that belt, and it's one of those things. You do need quality opponents, but that's also one of those things that it's like you've got to build those quality opponents, and you've got to have the whole roster. You can't just have main event guys, and this is what I think everyone's problem is that they just see the main event guys as being the only guys that are featured and important, because, again, that's the way that WWE used to really do things. They didn't really ever pay any mind to their tag team division or their cruiserweight division or their women's division or whatever else. They didn't really give them significant stuff to really play with that much. So when you talk about TNA and you talk about mid-card acts and whatnot, well, at least their mid-card acts, for the most part, are cared for and are actually given solid, substantial things to work with most of the time. Like, if you actually, tune in to check out what they actually do on a week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis or whatever. So, again, yeah, I don't think people really understand that. I think people are too used to the WWE way of things that were before. And even like now, like, people still compare the new WWE to the old WWE. But again, that's how much value some people put on just being a main event guy. You can be a main event guy and still be treated like shit, like Kofi Kingston was. He was put into the mid card, and a few other people were done the same thing. Like, CM Punk was done dirty throughout his title run, despite being one of the longest reigning champions ever, and things like that. So again, and even like if you talk about the Summer of Punk and that title reign, like, name a feud besides the ones that were with John Cena that was lighting the country on fire. There hardly were any. Like, maybe with Daniel Bryan, yeah, sure. But that wasn't really lighting the world on fire. It was lighting the wrestling world on fire to a degree, but it really wasn't lighting anything on fire. It wasn't like gangbusters numbers that people were buying into the pay-per-view for, and whatnot. No criticism to them. They did the best of what they could give. at the time that was given to them and whatnot, and the whole scenarios that they were given. That was WWE and their poor, decisions and booking and whatever else and all that. And the thing is, again, talking about how much TNA will draw and how much, this will change things or how much better off they'll be. They've had a couple of good pay-per-views of late and whatnot, but still, it's just one of those things. They need to always be shooting for better. In my opinion, we recently saw this, I think it was Collision, recently got to just over 200,000 views. And that was like TNA at its peak, which was basically on a, dead network, or the network that, was it on the Pop or was it on this network? Actually, sorry. Might be misremembering. So it might have been on this network, but still, this is a very small network that they're on. And they still do one of the best numbers that's on Access TV. They do really gangbusters on their own network. But I think that TNA, if they were on a similar level network to what Collision's on or what NXT is on, they would do gangbusters numbers, absolute gangbuster numbers. And we see this from some of the clips from NXT, like Joe Hendry's video getting one of the most views since WrestleMania, or the most views since WrestleMania, or even up there close to being like WrestleMania levels. And still, you see the Rascals doing some good numbers, and you see these other things, Jordan Grace and whatnot. I think those things, yes, it's a surprise, or it's this, or it's that, yes, but still, it's these talents that people know coming in and saying, hey, we're here now, I think that's why the working relationship between NXT and WWE TNA is so good. It's because both brands are kind of small-ish, but they kind of have their own sort of indie appeal, And there's a lot of TNA fans who will tune in to see what their TNA favorites are doing on NXT or whatever else, or even just watch the clips, because I do that too. Seeing somebody, potentially Nick Nemeth, going to NXT and defend the title at some point in the future, or even just being to set up a feud, or a feud coming from NXT over to TNA. Hey, Wesley just turned heel. I didn't really see much of that, but still, it's a thing that has happened. So him coming to TNA for just one match or something, like a top level match or something, or whatever, something like that. I don't know. Could be a thing, maybe. Don't know. Have to wait and see. Or just something like that. Do something with these people while you have a chance to do something with them. Always do something with somebody. That's the thing that WWE back in the day didn't really do. They just were sitting on their laurels and just being yeah, whatever. John Cena, whatever, that'll do. LOL, whatever, that'll do. We don't care about doing anything else because we've got John Cena, so we don't need to do anything else. We're happy the way things are, till that sort of was oh yeah, John Cena's going away to make movies. Oh shit, well, this guy, Roman Reigns, let's put him in the main event. Isn't he in one of our most popular trios? Let's break him up. Let's put him in the main events basically straight away. And, nothing could go wrong with that. 4 or 5 years of attempts later, But, still, that's when he earned his level of, support or whatever. His level of being the top guy. As being hey, I'm no longer going to be the suffering Succotash, cartoon character that they want me to be. I'm finally going to be the badass, kicking ass dude, which is, again, what they did to Kevin Nash back in the day. He was a badass, cool dude, and then they were just like, you've got to be a good guy and got to be squeaky clean and and all this. But that didn't work and wouldn't work because, again, people's perceptions and attitudes were changing. You needed more than just to be, this bright-eyed, blue-eyed, whatever, nice guy who shakes hands and kisses babies or whatever, and Mr. America Forever or whatever. But, WWE was, like, very slow on that blocks. And it's been very slow on the blocks until basically Triple H has taken over, and he still gets things wrong. So, I never want to glorify 100% somebody who, no one bats 1,000. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to take anything negative too much, but just saying, hey, constructively or objectively, hey, was this good? Probably not that good, But just trying things and just, not having that same mindset and just going, you know what, we're going to do the best for business that we can with what we have, and we're going to do, we're going to take a risk, see if, somebody who's starting to get hot can carry the company, because the company is the draw at this point as well. So even if it's a little bit less than what they expect it to be, they'll still be drawing big money because they've got big names in their company. And Gunther just won the title. He's definitely earned that. Cody's still the guy. I don't know who's going to take the title off of him, but it doesn't feel like there's really anyone, maybe Solo, but I don't know. That's a little bit, hard to pick. But again, like, same thing. Look at TNA. Who's there besides Josh to really take that title off of Nemeth? Maybe Moose, but that's kind of like, well, why are you doing that for, type thing. You can still, like, I am glad that they are keeping the system around. I feel like that's something that helps them, because, like, you need these factions, or you need a good faction. I think the whole WWE has like 3 or 4 or 5 different factions now. It's like, dude, like, you've got way too many things going on with too many factions. Like, what? Like, you've got Judgment. You had Judgment Day, and now you've got Judgment Day 2.0, and then you had the Bloodline. Now you've got Bloodline 2.0, and all this other stuff going on. So, and you've got the LWO and whatnot. So, or I don't know whether that's still going, but again, too many little things. Like, you just boil things back down a little bit. And, if you've got a great heel group, or even 2 great heel groups, it's like, what are you doing? Like, or you're, cycling through this heel group so quickly. Now you're going to make half that group a babyface group, and then they're going to go up against the new new bloodline. And where's that going? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you pay that off with? And what happens after that? Like, you're always got to be thinking, well, is the Judgment Day then going to become the next big stable, like, or whatever? Or the new Judgment Day, or whatever you want to call it, which is technically the new Judgment Day, because they had Edge to start with. Then Finn took over. Now it's something else. So, but yeah. You're always looking for those people that are on your roster to have the position that, like, even in the mid-card, same thing. It doesn't matter what level of title it is. When you're the world title holder, you're expected to be the draw, or part of the draw for shows. So, yeah. And they've still got Moose there. They've still got Josh Alexander, who's still really hot, as a heel now. So, that's interesting. And they've got Joe Hendry. So, yeah, people will still be up for that stuff, and just having some more of this NXT stuff coming in, or this NXT crossover or whatever. I think there's it seems again there's a few people that want to go over there and do work, or want to come over to TNA and do some work. And a lot of other people are just kind of yeah, whatever. I'm just here for the ride. They're not really oh yeah, pick me that much. Or maybe they are, because it's well, we can only do so much, and we can only take so many, and we can only have, we don't want to bloat our us to just full of the TNA guys every week or whatever. I kind of really want to see just a full-on TNA show one night. Just instead of NXT, it's a TNA show. It's just this TNA show. So TNA is taken over. But yeah. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed this one, and hope you'll join me again in